Hi Fancy fans, welcome back to Flights of Fancy. I'm Sarah and we're back from a slight hiatus while I edited some videos that I made for our Star Wars LARP. I'll post the links below, those were quite fun. Now that it's spring, it's so delightful to be outside doing intros for you. We're in my backyard this time. We're back to polymer clay. I just can't keep away, it's so much fun. I did some similar ones to these. Unfortunately, I didn't film making this one. It was sort of an experiment, but it came out really fantastic. I just love it. I'll have to put the tutorial slash Insp-O-Tainment video for these up soon. I made some faux stone buttons out of polymer clay for the dress that I lined last time. Anyway, I have footage of myself making those faux stone buttons out of polymer clay for my dress, and hopefully I'll have time to sew them on and I can get some good photos. I don't think a video of sewing them on the dress would be very interesting. I'll post those to Instagram so you can see what the dress looks like with the buttons. Okay, Fancy fans, let's get to the project. Oh, but first I want to show off these micas and glitters I got from Michael's, the craft store. They have mica now. I didn't end up using it in this project, but I just had to have some for general use. And I used a couple of these glitters. They're so fun. They come in many colors and shapes. There's plain little glitters and those flaky glitters and some like spiny glitters. So much fun. I use them more later in my nail polish video coming up here. So what I'm doing is I wanted to have the kind of stone, I think it's one of those kinds of jasper. There's a million kinds of jasper, but I was just making up a stone basically. But it looks like it has little bubbles, like with little concentric rings inside, all just smattered throughout sort of a random colorful like speckled stone. So I'm making these little orbs with concentric colors going around them, and I think I started too big because as you'll see later they got really big, and then my cane is just like ginormous. But you know, it was an experiment and I wanted to see. I should have thought ahead a little bit and more carefully selected the colors of my rings because I think it got a little muddled. What I was going for was translucent gold mixed with sort of different greens with other random, flecks of color in there. But I think it came out a little more muddy than I was hoping for. But it was so much fun to do an experiment with, and as you saw earlier, I sprung for the pasta machine to make the clay flat. And that is a huge time saver and a huge savings on my wrists. My poor wrists rolling out clay was not fun. But as you can see, I'm having fun with making different patterns and textures of colors to go in this contraption here and fitting in different glitters. I did have trouble with glitters a previous time. You might recall I became very frustrated with the glitters scratching everything as I tried to cut them, but I didn't seem to have trouble this time. So the screen, okay, so I sliced it open to see what I was working with, and I was like, well, it needs more contrast, it's just like very dull. There's like one bright layer in it. Should have just stopped. It's hard to know when to stop when you're making art. You're just like, I'm on a roll. But anyway, here I am. I'm going with this sort of burgundy pink gold thing that I had for a different project. It was left over. And not every layer has to be covered completely. Maybe using a thinner setting on my pasta machine. Maybe I should have used a different setting on my pasta roll, is what I'm saying. So we had just barely enough of this green stuff to cover the rose colored one. I think I had just like a little opening, but at this point I'm like, oh my gosh, I better just get to where I'm going. So here I am taking some scraps I had kind of mushed together, and I wanted to have some like contrasting colors just speckled about, so I just put them on there. They look like little atoms now. And then I took some translucent clay and got it nice and soft, because you have to condition the clay before you work with it or it just becomes a crumbly mess. And then I kind of put some more glitter in it. More glitter! Oh, too much fun. And so I cut this into slices and I used it to sort of coat these spheres, and it sort of just turned into a big, what's that game where you roll up all the things and it just becomes one big weird ball? And so I'm trying to get these slices in between each sphere and then coat the whole thing in the slices, and it kind of worked. It was pretty fun just like mushing them all together. Katamari ball? Is it Katamari? It's a Katamari ball. So here I'm squishing it into sort of a rectangle, because I'm trying to make sure that all of the clay becomes perfectly stuck together. And unfortunately I did trap a few air bubbles, but the smaller you make the cane, the less of a nuisance that is. I put on this clay on the outside that's modeled to look like stone or something, so I thought, you know, like it's like a slice of stone. So, you know, it's coming out okay. Alright, it's very colorful. I'm a very colorful person. I think this stone would work for me. And here I got the button from the jacket that I'm going to be replacing these little faux wood buttons with faux stone buttons. And match up the size. And what I did is I have a fairly thick slice, and the top is sort of domed and the bottom is sort of flat, and then I poked the two button holes in it. Buttonholes. And here they are! Not so bad really after all. It was a really fun try. Thanks everybody for watching. Please subscribe and we'll catch you next time.